welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us here. So, good evening, and I'm Jeanette Glicksman, and this is Kathy Austin, the new chair of the Human Services Commission. I was going to introduce members of our commission, but we got a lot of emails saying people were busy.
It's cold outside. It's cold outside. Yeah, we get it.
We've been asked to provide a brief overview of department functions for those of you who are new to department oversight. So brief, as best I can, like a view from 1,000 feet. The Human Services Department oversees all social services, youth services, and senior services for the town. The Human Services Department provides a lifeline for this town's residents in need. The department responds to Woodbridge residents in areas such as food access through the food pantry, referrals to local agencies for services and healthcare, also assisting with emergency fuel and electricity. Residents can access information from our certified choices counselor, and those who have difficulty navigating available state social services can get help with qualifying and navigating many state agencies and programs. The department provides access to vaccine clinics. This year we provided over 500 vaccinations, COVID test kit distribution, and homebound services. We coordinate the VITA tax program, the medical loan closet. The department collaborates with police and fire and manages the town's emergency shelter operations, as well as warming, cooling, and charging shelters. The department is responsible for veteran services and ADA compliance. The Woodbridge Center provides health and wellness programs and services to the town's ever-increasing aging population. The center focuses on fostering connections between members, the community, and local businesses to provide residents with the ability to maintain their highest level of independence as they age in place. The center offers healthy in-person and delivered meals, health and wellness programming, physical fitness opportunities, and informational, educational, and entertaining programs. The center also provides transportation services for older residents and for those with disabilities to access medical appointments, shopping, and social visits. Most services are provided to residents at no cost, and programming aims to be cost neutral with small fees for participation or sponsorships from local businesses. Programming is focused on creating community for older adults. Youth Services provides local youth with opportunities to develop healthy relationships and connections to family, school, peers, and community through positive youth development programming. Partnerships and collaborations are fostered with the schools, agencies, and organizations to provide information, referrals, and advocacy. Through grant writing and excellent reporting, Youth Services is awarded 2 grants each year through the State Department of Children and Families. In addition, Youth Services provides programming to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students, after-school programs at middle school Bethany, sponsors the after-school guided program at Beecher, teaches the very popular Red Cross babysitting classes, and the Home Alone program. The staff manages a job bank for the Woodbridge teens, putting Woodbridge residents in need of the inexpensive labor together with teens eager to work and gain experience with their first jobs. Youth Services coordinates with the Woodbridge Center, pairing high school volunteers with older residents who need assistance with their devices. The students receive community service, and the older residents get great tech help. Youth Services works with the BOW community on drug, vaping, and alcohol prevention programming. That's an overview, and now Kathy is going to give us a few words as Commission Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight. I'm proud to present a lean budget focused on the targeted needs of this department, not on wishes. Although I was only recently appointed chair, my association with the department and the town is a long one, having been a member of the Youth Advisory Board for many years before joining this commission. And I've been a resident for 43 years Would have been longer. I was raised in Orange. I had no choice. I was a minor. But when I was old enough and had a choice, I chose Woodbridge. And I chose this town for my work as well. I worked nearly 40 years as a Beecher Road teacher, school psychologist at Beecher and Amity, and I was coordinator of pupil services at the Amity School District before retiring. I am proud to team with the Human Services Commission and the highly effective staff of this department. The commission is comprised of psychologists, social workers, attorneys, public health officials, those raising young children, and retired folks like me that hope to age in place with the services provided by this department and the town. Keeping me and my retired friends and neighbors living in their homes adds value to Woodbridge. Allowing this department to see that the health, transportation, and social needs of our seniors are met will give this growing subset of the population the opportunity to support Woodbridge without adding any additional numbers to school districts. A small amount of added staffing to the center is necessary to meet these needs. We are at an important juncture. Enrollment in all programs and services for all ages is growing. Meeting this growing need is paramount. Keeping all ages involved in social activities in safe buildings in which to house this programming and transporting residents to their medical appointments in reliable vehicles are our current needs. The staff has reduced costs through grants and fundraising to significantly offset the requests you will see tonight. Therefore, what Jeanette now presents to you targets the essential needs of all residents during this important year of growth. Thank you. It's my privilege to give you back to Jeanette.
Thank you. Jeanette, we've been asking people to do their capital presentation
ready.
first. Okay. Thank you.
So you've got 3 items in the capital budget. They represent safety and transportation and programming. So there's 3 areas. Literally 2 of them. I'm going to go with could have, but maybe the word stronger, it should be should have, been placed in building maintenance capital budget. Brad and I talked about it. We went through it. They are in my capital budget request, and he provided all the information to complete them, and his expertise and his crew will either hire outside people to do the work or do the work himself. So whether you consider it our request or you consider it an addition to Brad's, that's entirely up to you. He told me he was watching tonight, so be careful what I say.
Just don't say leaky boiler, because we've had enough of that.
The first item on the list is the garden stairs. In 2019, we had the outside ramp installed, and it did not include an entranceway to this garden area. And when I came on board and noticed that that was missing, we added the previous gate that had been there onto it. Town workers did that, added the gate in, but no stairwell was included, and it is a 30-inch drop. The garden is maintained by senior volunteers and staff. It is, potentially an eyesore on the side of the building if it is not maintained. The volunteers do a great job, but I did catch them with a small table that they had brought from home or something there, and they were climbing down the 30 inches onto the small table and then dropping into the garden. I've also found childcare center kids climbing in there, so we did add a lock on the area, and so now nobody is going in there. It would cost less, you're saying to yourself $6,000 for a staircase, but it is a rise of about half a foot, and then it's a drop of 30 inches. And what we need to do is we need to cut the sidewalk there. It's not sidewalk, it's the riser. It's rebar rebar, and it has to be cut, and that needs an outside person because our guys can't do that. And so the price did go up a little bit, but we're still talking about $6,000, so it's not like a $3 million roof or a new furnace. So that would be a terrific addition, and it will become an eyesore. Potentially, pests can get in there and nest, and that would be very bad for the center building. That's our first request. The second request is for the child care center rooms, which have been occupied there, as you know, as a founder, for many, many years. It runs year-round. There's not been a lot of opportunity for building maintenance to get in and do any work. Child care center is now in the work of renovating at the First Church of Christ. They are putting in an excellent space for them. They're very excited. It's got double door security. It's got an office for the director, and most importantly, it has room for the new 5-year-old class that the state is mandating that those kids, those who are associated with schools, know that the 5-year-olds who don't turn 5 until by September 1st can't go anywhere. And so they don't have room in the current space for that. And so they're very happy to be moving to the new location. And so we are going to utilize those rooms for much needed space in the center. We're going to put back the pool table and ping pong tables for the senior center programming that's been missing since the renovation. And we're going to move the food pantry and the medical loan closet to have space for these important town programs. And so we have some ideas for those rooms, and it needs cleaning. It's not remediation in the terms of like physically changing anything. It's paint, it's cleaning the carpets, the flooring. We can't touch the floors for now. It's capping a few of those mini toilets. And it's adding 9 air conditioners to replace the air conditioners that the child care center is taking with them. This is all, prior to the work that will be done as the center building renovation committee has planned, but it's accessed now to utilize that space because it's so needed. And another publicly facing room for town people like the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts to be able to utilize more space there, because people are always fighting over space. If you ever tried to rent a room over there. So that's that, and it's $20,000. It's $17,500 for the cleaning up, and I put in $2,500 for racks and table for the food pantry.
Can I ask a quick question? Madam Chair, thank you. So this is not going to be duplicative in terms of the rent, the $41 million. This is going to be.
No, this is like base. Just we're not doing anything. We're not removing a bathroom. We're not adding anything.
Okay.
It's just a refreshing,
okay.
a refreshing from what.
Right. Oh, right here. So we. Yeah.
That's
Yes.
what I understand.
Okay.
Right.
We're not doing
Just,
any
okay.
additional.
Less costly than a
Understood.
dispatch center. But work that has to be done
Okay.
to keep utilizing space, because we're just tight. We literally are falling over things in the medical loan closet. It's impossible.
Has the child center vacated yet?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I see,
No.
okay.
This will be, their lease is up May of '25.
And
We
then-
want to get
and then
in
you'll
May of
step in.
'25,
Okay.
May, June,
Gotcha.
get this work done, hit the ground running in the following year with moving into the space.
Okay, good.
If we don't do it now, then we're losing,
Right.
time.
Thank you.
So I was going to ask a quick question about timing. You partially answered it. If there were funds available in this fiscal year at the end of the year, is there a way to fund it this year rather than going to next year, or you really do need July 1 to come before you can do it?
No, since where are we? 2024, 25. So
It's
they're
another
not
year
moving
out.
until
Until next
25
May of
spring.
next year.
So we can, well, we can do it at the end of this year. Right.
So it's next June that you potentially could do it,
Correct.
otherwise you're into a
Tony,
following. Right
am I
now, we have this in next year's fiscal,
Tony,
It's
jump
a
in.
year and 4 months,
Right, right.
but it's in the 25 funds.
so it's the very end of that request year.
Right. So the answer is yes. Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
And then lastly is just a 20% match on the 5310 grant that we normally apply for every so often. This will be 10 years on that vehicle. It most likely, if the vehicle is still running and doing well, will be pushed off to 2027. It's a placeholder for now. If the vehicle doesn't fare well in the next year, in its 10th year, then we'll probably have to do it. It's a matching grant. We get a vehicle that's worth between $75,000 and $80,000, and we spend $15,000. So it's just a placeholder for that.
Any other questions on capital before Human Services moves to operate?
What's the repair cost on the vehicle right now?
Well, our line item is $4,800, and we've used about half this year, but we have two, count them 280,000 mile vehicles from the police department, and so we had one breakdown, and the vehicle itself, I can toss this to Christy because she deals with vehicle maintenance. That particular 10-year-old vehicle, is that the one with the battery problem, or is that the new one?
It's the one with the current battery problem. It's difficult to fix right now, but the backup camera's not working, and there's other electronic things that are
Acting up.
acting up kind of randomly, so they're trying to address it.
It sounds to me like every vehicle has a story. Okay.
I do want to just point out one more thing, and that is the items that we've removed that were in last year's capital budget that we found alternative sources for did save the town, if they were granted, $140,000. So those have all been pulled out. We were able to find grants, and we found other ways of paying through fundraising dollars, which is a favorite of yours, and other means, but we did pull out $140,000.
Yeah, I think this stairway has some fundraising possibilities.
Yeah, guess again.
It's cheaper than parachutes. I get it.
The air conditioners that the child care is taking, I'm assuming those are portable units?
They are portable units, and they are industrial.
Okay.
So they're not what you pick up at Home Depot.
How many of them are we talking about?
9. There are currently 9. We would like to replace with 9. The windows have been formulated to hold, like with 2x4s. I don't know. Brad has suggested industrial and 9 units, and so I think that's at a cost of about $450 a unit.
I'm just wondering if that is something that should be in capital versus operating, or not that it's material, but I don't know what the, but it's not building, it's portable, right? So, and I don't know what the depreciable life expect.
It's an accounting nerd talk, I'm sorry.
We'll defer to Tony. Yeah. Okay.
That just went right
Yeah.
over here.
I know.
Sorry.
I understand why
Yeah.
you're asking it, because it doesn't get nailed down into the building. I get it. It's removable. All right, let's go to operating.
Okay. The FY25 budget compares very favorably with the department's FY24 projected budget. The proposed FY25 budget is projected at just 4% over FY24, including the 2.5% increase on all salary-related line items, and another increase to an outside agency per contractual agreements. The Human Services staff, in conjunction with the Human Services Commission, have worked prudently to establish a thoughtful and responsible budget for FY25. The department's goal is to provide cost-neutral programming where revenue offsets expenditure. Through fundraising efforts, donations, and state grants, the department has raised over $128,000 in the past year, which you can see itemized on page 4 of your letter of transmittal. We are looking to enhance the operations of the Woodbridge Center to enrich and improve the lives of older adults throughout Woodbridge. According to the State Department on Aging and Disability Services, Connecticut has over 823,000 residents aged 60 and older, which equates to 23% of the state population. The Woodbridge Center serves residents 55 and above, and according to census data from the town clerk's office in 2023, Woodbridge had over 3,600 residents 55 and older, which represents a little more than 40% of the town. Like the rest of the country, Woodbridge is planning for a future which includes a drastic rise in its aging population over the next 10 years. And according to the U.S. Census Bureau, the growth rate for older Americans grew twice as fast during the decade from 2010 to 2020, as opposed to the decade from 2000 to 2010. These trends in growing population numbers require the Woodbridge Center to work to meet the current needs of residents and plan to respond to ever-increasing numbers of program participants. The Woodbridge Center has seen an average growth of 30 new members per month over the last 6 months since the renovation of the deal. So I'll just go over the line items that have changed.
Yeah.
I think that's usual. So clearly all salary line items increase per contractual agreements. The kitchen coordinator, 50350, currently works 9 hours per week. With the in-person lunch program going forward, we request an additional 2 hours per week to include management of the frozen meal delivery program as well. Including the contractual increase in salary, the extra hours will increase the budget by $2,097. Regional services, 52,300. Cost has increased due to a per capita increase in membership fees for Quinnipiac Valley Health District. This equates to $2,500 over FY24 and is their third consecutive rise in fees.
Is that because of the vaccine programs, do you think?
No.
I think those were grants.
That was all state and federal funded money.
Just curious.
Yeah, I'd love to have said that, yes. The health district provides necessary licensing and inspections which fulfill obligations for various town of Woodbridge departments and local businesses. These inspections include, but are not limited to, food service establishments, catering and food stores, as well as septic inspections and well water quality monitoring. As these services benefit the entire town and not solely the clients of human services, we have not attempted to offset this increase in costs. We did remove $1,620 from the Home Care Plus Community Healthcare and Hospice, as they are no longer providing services for the town. In general professional services, 52,100 line item has increased due to the popularity of the meal program. This is offset by projected revenue lines. The gas line item, 52,210, was not increased in 2024, but the price for gas was locked in at an increase in cost, so we are, and usage is up due to transportation program popularity. We need to raise the line item by $250, but we have reduced the professional development, 52,610, by $250, as much of the training has been available virtually. So we feel like we can do the savings there. We request the part-time clerical assistant position, 50310, be modified into a full-time position. The description of need was outlined on pages 1 and 2 of the letter of transmittal, but I'm going to take a minute here to discuss the necessity. There is a tremendous amount of work in directing a center this size, and to have less than 2 full-time employees dedicated to its operations is quite inadequate. The center is staffed with a full-time director and a part-time clerical program assistant. The past year has seen tremendous adaptation in the center's programs and services as pre-pandemic programming has successfully melded with the programming established during the pandemic and renovation period. The center is not, however, currently able to expand its program offerings any further. It has had to reject or put on hold many potential programs that have been requested by clients or offered by community partners, and will have to continue to reject these requests and outreaches until the clerical program position becomes a full-time position. In addition, with previous increases in programming and without a full-time clerical program assistant, the director's attention has been taken away from other tasks, including marketing and fundraising. The director secured, just to put it in perspective, the director secured over $44,000 last calendar year in that kind of outreach, pretty much doubling our programming budget. The clerical program assistant is responsible for some of the center's most vital programs, including the meal delivery and transportation programs. Each of these programs requires substantial attention and careful scrutiny of detail, including frequent follow-up conversations with clients to ensure those residents are properly served. Through the first 6 months of FY24, 1,227 meals have been delivered to Woodbridge residents, and this does not include meals served in the center, a program with which the clerical program assistant also assists. In addition, transportation for the first 6 months of FY24 is substantially ahead of the last 2 fiscal years and on pace to surpass FY23 by nearly 1,000 rides. The number of rides coordinated this fiscal year is even more impressive since transportation is requested during unpredictable times of the day to varying locations with multiple riders in one vehicle to different locations. The schedule is often put together like a puzzle to ensure that most requests for rides can be accommodated. The clerical program assistant is also one of the faces of the center, greeting members as they arrive for programming, interacting with program attendees, collecting and logging payments, creating receipts and invoices, and fielding phone calls, all of which, along with the frozen meal program and transportation program, continuously have tasks that require consistent attention. So that's our pitch. I have one more thing I just want to add, and that is in looking at current census data and calculating the cost for center employees, programming, and services, our former chairman of the Human Services Commission previously stated that the cost to Woodbridge per resident 55 and up was approximately $65 per resident. Or senior residents, not all residents. I've done some calculations this week, and I find that with increasing numbers of residents 55 and up, and a static budget for the Woodbridge Center, the cost per resident figure has dropped to just $55 per resident for 55 and older. I've done some simple math here too. I'm not very good at math. With approximately a $17 million annual budget at Beecher and approximately 850 kids, we're spending approximately $20,000 per kid per year, not including capital projects. It just makes good economic sense to invest in your older residents as well and plan for a future where residents can age in place in Woodbridge rather than selling their homes to more families with school-age children.
Thank
So
you.
that's what we've got.
Any questions for Human Services?
I have a question. With regards to your growing lunch program, senior lunch program, that anyone 55 and up can take advantage of that? And do those, to take advantage of that great program, do folks have to be retired or so do you happen to know what percent of those 55 and up are still working, who take advantage of who utilize the lunch program?
No, I don't know that. Christy, any thoughts?
No, I don't know really how we would collect that data, to be honest with you.
So how do you control do you track who is utilizing the program?
So there are 2 programs. There's the in-home, the delivery of frozen food, and then there's the in-person. And we send invoices to all the people who receive the frozen meal delivery, so we have a bit of information about those people, and we can, find out information more about them. I'm not quite sure. There are some people that are still working with the frozen meal delivery program. I mean, there's often the case where somebody has an operation or a sudden illness, or during COVID there was a lot of people who didn't want to access supermarkets or couldn't go online and order food. But the in-person meals, anybody can stop in any time and have those meals. They do have to request a meal the day before. And those people, sometimes it's pickleball players like you. Some are retired and some aren't. I don't think we have tracked that information. It is potential. We have a great data system called Schedules Plus that does reporting for us, and that could potentially glean that information. I'm not sure why it is a critical piece.
It's not,
Oh,
I'm just
okay,
curious.
you're just curious.
Just
Okay.
trying to learn.
All right, we're already taxed on how much we do for these people, so I'm not sure we're gonna create something. It's a good question, we'll figure it out.
Megan has
There's
a
no
thought.
concern in regards to what you collect in fees versus what you're paying out for these services, correct?
Sure, so we collect in fees what we pay out for these services.
That's what
We do
I,
not,
so it's a wash. So
it's a
whether-
wash,
Okay.
right.
So from that perspective, I think I know where you were getting
Thank
at.
you.
We're not
Thanks for
spending
helping
tax. To be perfectly
Thank you for the
clear and
clarification.
transparent, the delivery is on us,
Okay,
okay?
Yep.
But those people
That's the
absolutely
service.
that's
need
the
that
service,
service.
sure.
Right.
I just
Other
want to add also,
questions?
as far as the delivery, we do fit that into the transportation program around the medical rides and, you know, the other rides that we have planned. So,
Right.
you know, maybe on a couple days a week or if it's around, it's
And
not.
I only say that because I'm working and I'm going to be stopping over there.
You are very welcome. We've got a great sandwich and a hot meal twice a week, so.
Thank you.
And thank you for all you do. During COVID, it was amazing what you guys were able to do.
If
for
you
this
ask the
community.
staff, they're still doing that.
Additionally, I could say this is, new, you know, coming in, do a great job in your budget as well. And I want to thank you for that.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, thank you.
Sorry we took so much time.
No, no, we still
It was
like.
not like.
Okay, library. Careful.
Hi, for those who don't know me, I'm Eric Worthman, the director of the library. Been director since 2015. I do have a handout. I was going to do a PowerPoint presentation, but I thought this would be more efficient.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We are deeply grateful.
It's really just a few things that I thought it would be better if you had in front of you as opposed to hearing me say the numbers and things and immediately, you know, forgetting them. Here you go. And I just want to thank, in particular, there you go, some members of the Library Commission are here tonight, including our chair, Tom Chernow, our assistant chair, Andy Doucette, and Tina Brogadier. Move this chair back. Give myself some extra room. So, like Jeanette and like Human Services, I'm going to start with a little bit of an introduction to the library for people who may be new on the boards and so forth. And that's one of the reasons, actually, if you look at the handout, that I start with the mission statement and the vision statement. Those are new, relatively new, from 2022, which is when I, along with the staff and the Library Commission, revamped our mission statement and added a vision statement. So I think if you read those, I'm not going to read them, but if you do read them, they kind of give you an idea of what we do, of what we are and what we want to be. I think it's worth emphasizing in the mission statement the joy of reading. I think literacy is possibly the most important thing we do, and we do focus a lot on literacy, especially in the children's department. But also, I think with adults, we're very focused increasingly so on digital literacy, which is an increasing problem, an increasing issue that we are trying to focus on. I did want to say that, you know, we, like everybody, I suppose, we've had a tough few years, especially 2020 and 2021. We had some pretty significant budget cuts, and obviously we were closed in one way or another for much of 2020 and 2021. And we had a bunch of layoffs in our staff as well. We mostly have been rebuilt our staff, and the library is mostly back to normal. Our total circulation of items is now higher than it was before the pandemic, and I have some quick numbers here on that on the handout. For fiscal year 2019, which is the last full year before the pandemic, we had 130,000 circulations of physical materials, which is about the same as we have now, or in fiscal year 2023, last fiscal year. But digital materials, you'll note, has gone up from 18,000 to 26,000, which is a 46% increase. Which is great. We lend a ton of ebooks and downloadable audiobooks and digital magazines and comic books and movies and all kinds of stuff. But I should mention that stuff is very expensive. An ebook for a library is significantly more expensive than a physical book. So the costs are kind of rising. That is a challenge that all libraries are facing, is how to pay for this stuff. because it is so expensive. So that's something we have been facing. Also, in fiscal year 23, we had almost 500 programs with 3,800 attendees to those programs, which is a little less than before the pandemic, but it is still quite healthy, and I think this year it looks, judging by trends for this fiscal year, it should be a lot higher this year. So we're continuing to see a spike to hopefully get back to the kind of level we saw before the pandemic. And on the back of the handout, I have some charts that I got from the Connecticut State Library. Has a chart creator, which is really just an Excel spreadsheet that they have preloaded with data and have just the charts are kind of preloaded and you just choose your library. But anyway, I picked some that I think show that we are a very well used and very well loved library. And a lot of these statistics are, again, continuing to go up significantly this year compared to last year, particularly library visits. This year was about 60,000. Our fiscal year 23 was about 60,000. This year it's on trend to be about 66,000, so it is rising that's about 10% rise. And presumably it will continue to rise after that. And I did just want to offer a few comments about some things we've done this past year and things we're doing coming up. We did recently incorporate some extra duties regarding the Woodbridge Lake Mead Day and the Earth Day celebration. Those are sort of big town programs that were previously handled by Town Hall. And we're doing them now, and they're obviously great programs. And I think they do really fit well with our mission, so we're happy to do them, but obviously that is a lot of additional responsibility we're handling. We also expanded our hours in 2023. For the first time, as far as I know, ever, the library was open on Saturdays in the summer, which I think is important. I mean, I'm not sure of the thinking as to why we're closed on Saturdays in the summer, but I think it's still essential to be open. I think a lot of people still have some trouble making it during the week, so it is important to be open for people who may not even be able to make it after work, when we're open in the evenings. And that doesn't change in the summer. Our children's department has been especially vital. We have a lot of new staff in the children's department, so it is very energized. In the last year or two, they've added it's called a 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program, which is a program to encourage early literacy. And they've also added a new foreign language collection of different children's books with different foreign language, which I think is also important because obviously Woodbridge has, like everywhere, has increasing diversity, and we want to make sure we are paying attention to that. And finally, just quickly, we have coming soon, hopefully in the next month or two, it's taken a lot of work to get this off the ground, a Library of Things. These are things that are sort of non-traditional items that you would not think of as coming from a library, but I think will be popular. And so starting when we do launch the program, some of the things we will have will be a telescope, a microscope, a sewing machine, a metal detector, a record player, and a knife sharpener. And these are things people will be able to check out from the library for a week at a time. And again, hopefully in the next month or two, this will all be ready to go. It took a lot of trying to deal with the packaging and stuff has taken a while, and all the barcodes and everything. Anyway, but we're hopefully it's coming to the end of that process.
Wait a minute, are you telling me I can check out a telescope when this happens?
Yes. Yes, we have the telescope already. So we have had a telescope for a while. We've been using it for programming.
Okay.
For like people will come in and look at the stars at night. And anyway, but yes, we'll be able to check it out very soon.
Just wanted clarity. Okay.
Yes, and that's just to start with. So these are a lot of the items we're going to start with. Should this be successful, and we hope it will be, we're confident it will be, we'll certainly be adding more items in the future. This is just kind of the first.
I mean, should I clean my closet out? Is that the kind of thing and bring it in? Because where are you getting these things?
No. So as of now, we definitely, so these were paid for with funds like grants and stuff.
I see. Okay.
Okay. But as of now, we're trying to keep it just to this. And this is the idea is stuff that, obviously, either you don't want to buy, you just need it once, or just you want to try it out, so maybe you will buy it. I mean, this is the idea. And obviously, we've done a lot of research on what is popular at the library, so that's where we're getting all these ideas.
Got it. Thank you.
Anyway, that's my introduction, unless anybody has any other questions.
No. Do I just want, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just really quickly, I mean, this is pretty significant in terms of the studies. I know you didn't gloss over it, but you mentioned it.
Well, I'm trying to be quick, but yes.
If you really look at some of what these are obviously a very nice job being done at the library, and people are, we're doing very well here in Woodbridge. So
yes, people love our library, and we try to, I think the library has long been well used and well loved. We're trying to maintain that and work hard to keep it that way. And I should mention just quickly that the average of chosen population range, just if you have any questions, that I did choose, I just wanted to choose something that's similar to Woodbridge, so I did 7,000 to 11,000 people, plus or minus 2,000 from what Woodbridge is, just to see what towns of a similar population have going on.
And I also didn't get lost on me that from 2019 to your 2024 budget went up by less than 1%.
I'm going to get to that, yes.
Impressive as well.
It actually went up 0.7%. I have that number already.
Eric, start with capital. If you don't-
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes. So capital budget, we don't have too much. As you saw last week, Brad has put a bunch of stuff for the library in his capital budget, including the much-needed repair of the roof to the older part of the library, which has been a big issue. And as you probably saw, I think that the ceiling is pretty damaged in there and stuff, so we're hoping to get all of that fixed next fiscal year. The only thing we have in our capital budget is for fiscal year 28 is carpet replacements. This is more of a placeholder. We're not necessarily sure when it will need replacing, but it was put in 2013, so it'll be 15 years old then, and that's probably about the lifespan of the carpet. So we're just thinking. Now we don't know. As of now, it seems pretty fine, but some of the areas do get a lot of traffic, so we'll see. But it's just in there just so that you guys think about the library. We'll probably need a carpet replacement at some point in 3 to 5 years.
Got it.
So,
Yeah.
but we're certainly not asking for that right now.
Okay.
And for our operating budget, so our operating budget request is $888,479. That's a 5.66% from our FY24 adopted budget. Obviously, that is a fairly significant increase, which we are generally loath to do, but we do feel it's necessary. We're always mindful of containing costs, but that sometimes is difficult considering 73% of our budget is personnel related. I'm sure this is common across a lot of departments, but it's definitely true for us. That gives us some limited flexibility as to how we do things. It's harder to contain costs without cutting staff, which means maybe cutting services or service hours, so which we're generally reluctant to do. This is where I did want to look at the budget history, which is on the handout. So as Mika said, I mean, one of the first things to notice is that our budget has gone up 0.7%, or about $5,000 in 5 years, or 6 years, I guess. So that is worth noting. Inflation was 19% during that period. So I did look that up in an inflation calculator this afternoon. So it has been tough. Some of the reasons for that, you can see one is obviously we received substantial budget cut during the pandemic era of 2020, 2021. I believe that was about a 20% budget cut. I think that made sense at the time. The library was closed for much of that time or had very limited services, so we didn't necessarily need the staff that we would have when we're fully open. Obviously now we're fully open, and we do generally actually feel like the staffing level is generally relatively okay. But there are some other budget cuts we will get to. But I did want to say that also throughout this era, we were working hard to constrain the budget and to reduce staffing costs, because that is our major costs. You can see from FY19 to FY20, which is before the pandemic, we went down $23,000. That is when we eliminated a full-time position, which I know the town always likes, because that saves, obviously, on benefits, among other things. So we eliminated a full-time position then. And as I mentioned before, there was a lot of layoffs related to these budget cuts, obviously. That's how the budget cuts were made. As we built the staff, I definitely made sure to try to rethink things, do things a little differently, combine positions, cut some hours here and there. So we definitely saved, I would say, over $20,000 in staffing costs, plus maybe even $30,000 during that period of time by doing that. So I think hiring is always an opportunity to rethink things and do them a little differently, which is what we did. And I will say our hours compared to 2018 now we have 35 less hours a week. So we definitely are, we have lower hours than we did 5 or 6 years ago. So we're able to make do with that. But again, I just want to make sure clear that we are always worried about that stuff and trying to, though that does become more difficult as time goes on. As you have made these cuts and you're kind of getting into cutting more muscle than fat. Onto our budget, I did want to, I guess, go into the specific lines where we're requesting increases. 69% of our increase is just salary increases, most of which is the cost of living salary increases for FY24 and FY25, some of which is previously approved salary increases related to the newly adopted duties and promotions. That was adopted by the Board of Selectmen last year. We are looking for the final reversal of the budget cuts. There's $12,500 made last year to our requested budgets. These are specifically the lines for our collection items, books, DVDs, magazines, all of that stuff, including digital versions of those things. And I should note that we're trying to get back, for the book budget in particular, we're trying to get back to the FY 2013 level. So this is a level that is 12 years old, and that is what we're trying to get back to. So that would be the $75,000 level, which we're at the $65,000 level now. So we're not trying to get, that still might not be totally sufficient, but we'd be happy with that for now. And again, as I said, specifically, or especially because digital items are so expensive, and one ebook can cost $80, so that is incredibly expensive. It can cost $80 and it can expire in 2 years, so it's a significant expense. And we have been using money from the Friends and from grants we get. We get grants from the state every year, and we get donations and stuff, so we've been using money from that to kind of offset some of these budget cuts, which we use a lot of these monies for a lot of things, including program, but the money is limited, and I do not think it is sustainable to keep using that money to offset these budget cuts. I think eventually the Friends are going to run out of money, and we might run out of, some of these other monies too. So, also, finally, there is $2,191 in the automation line. That is for increased fees for our library consortium, Lion. Lion is a consortium of 30 libraries in the region. They provide us with a ton of stuff in a very cost-effective manner. Most importantly, they provide us with a shared cataloging system, which has all of the 30 libraries in there, which makes it very easy for people in Woodbridge to request books from other libraries. And Lion runs a delivery service itself, which is very efficient, which means you can get a book from, say, Guilford very easily, very quickly, in under a week. And that is something that would not be true without Lion, because the state also runs a delivery system, but the state's delivery service is very bad. So, I hate to say it, but it's just very bad. So having this supplemental delivery service through Lion is essential, I think, to get people books. And it basically means we have a much bigger collection than we seem to. It's a collection of 30 libraries, that anybody can get a book from any of those libraries or any item very quickly. So that is wonderful. And Lion also provides us with IT services, web hosting, and they actually have an ebook collection. So some of these ebook costs that I'm talking about are actually in this automation line, because that's part of the fees they use to fund their ebook collection through Overdrive. And that's it. And the last thing was just to mention that I did find some more efficiencies and cut our circulation assistant hours to 4 hours per week, which saves $3,800 a year. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions for Eric?
Can I just clarify the Lion system, which is great, I've used that, and the physical library, but is the collection fee related to the Lion line item, or are they separate?
They're separate. What I meant is, so yeah, they are separate totally. But in the Lion item automation, there is some of that money does go towards Lion's ebook collection, which is run by Lion and stuff. But it is a collection of ebooks.
So the collection line that we have here doesn't relate to interlibrary share.
No, not at all. All right, okay. That's sort of complicated. There is an option for individual, because there's, oh boy, this is complicated. There's a lot of, because ebooks are so expensive, there's a lot of budgetary pressure online in every library, because there are significant wait times to get an ebook. If anybody's ever tried to get an ebook, there can oftentimes be significant wait times. That's because they're so expensive. And Lion has been reluctant to raise their fees enough to sort of offset that. But there is a program where libraries can buy their own items that will get added to the collection, and then in this case, Woodbridge patrons would have precedence for those items in the Lion collection. So we do sometimes use our own collection money for that, which is an additional program called Overdrive Advantage. I know it's sort of complicated, but anyway, so sometimes we do spend probably a few $1,000s a year, mostly from grant money, but sometimes from operating budget money, to fund additional items into Overdrive's collection to lower the wait times specifically for Woodbridge patrons. Because sometimes it can be...
that clarified it for you.
I'm sorry.
But
the point is, the wait times can be up to, they can be 6 months for a book.
Well, what you and the Library Commission have always said is that being a part of Lions is value added for Woodbridge citizens.
Yes.
And, you know, because of it turns us into almost like a statewide library.
Yes.
And then people appreciate that. That's the short answer.
Yes. Sorry if I failed to
That's
explain that. Okay, I tried. Okay.
Any other questions for Eric?
Listen, what is these so library visits per capita, what is that? What is that?
It means library visits per capita. It means the total number of visits divided by the number of people in Woodbridge. So I think it is an attempt to say, I mean, obviously New Haven is going to have more library visits than we do.
That's what I was thinking.
Because they have 130 or 140,000 people, and we have 9,000. So it's an attempt to sort of adjust to
So
that.
for number of residents, so you take the number of visits
Divided by the number of
divided by the
residents.
number of residents.
Yes.
So 6.64 visits per number of residents in town.
Yes,
How many
exactly.
people- how many visits for the, you know how many visits for the year? Do you know?
It was about 60,000, as I said,
60,000 visits for the year.
for FY23. And that obviously is, whatever. I mean, that is, a lot of those people are, it's going to be multiple people coming in. I mean, obviously. And I will say that we have that number is pretty accurate because I did purchase a new people counter, a very sophisticated people counter with ARPA money. So up until a couple of years ago, our numbers for door count and stuff was not great. So luckily we do have this new people counter, so this should be pretty accurate data.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank
The EV charger that's in the parking lot at the library,
Yes.
does that get charged to the library, or does that hit some other line item? It's separate?
Do you know, I think it does go to the library.
Yes, it's to the nearest meter.
Which I think is the library.
Oh,
Which
the
is the
town
way.
put it in, not the library.
Yes.
Right. But, so the 53,000 that I see includes the cost
Correct,
from that charger?
correct.
Yes, I believe that's so. We also do have some solar panels on the roof of the library too, which may do the opposite. I'm not sure, but yeah.
You mean it may offset?
It may offset some of those charges, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
Do we have plans to start charging for that?
We do.
We do?
It's in the, sort of in the works now. We're just ordering some additional equipment and getting that charge part straightened out.
Awesome, thank you.
And will that money go to the library?
Never.
So it will.
It's a revenue.
I mean, it's all-
revenue.
It's funny you're asking that, because that's partly why I was curious whether we had installed one on the police canopy the other night, because I thought we had, but obviously. we
Yeah,
haven't.
it's pretty
Yeah.
popular.
Yeah,
Every time I drive by, there's a car there, so.
Yes, or two, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Please let me know if you have any questions, obviously. Any more questions?
Okay, Sean, fire.
You know what I mean, it's not like our.
I'll try to be a little quicker for you guys.
So we brought some show and tell items, just so you have some idea what you're looking at. My name's Sean Rowland, I'm the fire chief. I've been the fire chief since 2011. I was the assistant chief 8 years prior to that. I've been in the fire department since 1995. So, you want to start with capital?
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
Hopefully I'm in the right order. What's the first one on yours, Susan?
Engine 3?
Okay, so engine 3 is an engine we took took delivery back in 2020, and it was a lease purchase, and this is another payment for it, if I could find where engine 3 is. I believe we have one more payment, or is this it, Tony, do you know?
There's two more.
Two more payments. So it just goes on to, we lease purchased this truck, when we took delivery back in 2020. This is our first attack engine in at a structure 5. Engine 9 is the next one. Engine 9 we haven't taken delivery on yet. Engine 9 we should be taking delivery on. We ordered it in December of 2021. and we should see delivery, I'm hoping, within the next month and a half to 2 months. So once we have delivery on that truck will go into service, and our first payment would be due. Once we take delivery on that, it's usually we have to pay it 1 year after we take delivery, so it'd be next year's budget. That truck specifically goes to all motor vehicle accidents, extrications, rescues.
Sean, would you mind clarifying how many engines the fire department has?
Sure, so we have, 4 engines.
Thank you. And what, does engine 3 have a niche use as well? You mentioned 9.
That's a structural truck, so that goes to all first due structure fires, anything on fire, stuff like that.
So do they all have their own use or
They
some?
do, and they're interchangeable, so if one truck goes up for service, there's another truck that can back it up.
And out of curiosity, you might not know this, but what's the average or standard number of engines a volunteer department of our town size roughly has?
So it's hard to go off of that, so if we compare us to Bethany, we're probably pretty close to Bethany. Only because along with the engines, we also have to carry tankers. So 10% of our town has hydrants, 90% of our town doesn't carry hydrants. So some of our engines are bigger than, let's say, Orange, because Orange has hydrants everywhere. New Haven has a hydrant on every corner, where we struggle with that, and some of our hydrants are spread out 1,000 feet apart.
I happen to know we have 135 hydrants.
138.
Oh, I was close. Every year I get closer. Okay.
So in the town with fewer hydrants, the need for engines that can store water tanks.
So we have
is
tanker
great.
trucks. So
Tanker trucks.
yeah, we have 2 big tanker trucks that hold 3,000 gallons of water apiece. On those trucks, we have what we call portable ponds. They're basically swimming pools.
Yeah.
We drop them down in the middle of the road. Tankers pull up, we dump water. At that time, we're calling for mutual aid, and Bethany usually sends us 2 tankers. We call for Seymour, Ansonia, Prospect, depending on how big the size of the fire is. And what we do is we usually dump a tanker into a pond roughly every 3 minutes. So we flow in excess of sometimes 1,500 to 2,000 gallons of water a minute.
So why don't you keep going with capital and then
Sure.
hold your questions just till we get to the engines.
Okay. Number 3 is the air compressor. This is the backup air compressor. We replaced the compressor for the trucks. So we have 2 compressors. One is the main air compressor that keeps the air brakes up in the trucks. So on emergency fire apparatus, what we need to do is the trucks have air brakes, so we have to keep those full. So what happens is the compressor runs continuous, keeps the air pressure up in the truck, so when we get in, we start the truck, we don't have to wait 3 to 5 minutes for the air to build up into the truck before the truck leaves. As soon as we start the truck, the air tanks are full and you can drive right out. This compressor is the backup to the other compressor for the air brakes. It also does all the air tools that we have at the firehouse and maintenance to work on the trucks and to put air in the tires and all that. That other compressor's got a regulator that we keep at a certain pressure just to keep the air brakes up, because if we increase it, then we can have problems with the brakes on the trucks and basically blow the drums out, and that gets costly.
Okay.
And we're hoping, just to go on with that, that's extremely important. We're hoping that this compressor actually gets us through until July. Hopefully we can order the new one. I don't know. We've had air compressor engineering out to look at it. It is on its last leg. It was a unit that we did take over from the old building when we moved to the new building back in 2009. Car 21, That's a Suburban, that's a 2017. That car we have slated out in, I believe it's FY27, so we want to put that on the radar for that.
Did you say 21?
Yeah.
Yes.
Chief,
Yeah.
what do we do
Okay.
with those vehicles once we take them out of service?
The Suburbans?
Yeah.
Usually we end up either trading them in or scrapping them because, like the car we just talked about, car 21, it's already 7 years old. The next car we're going to talk about is another Suburban that's 13 years old. So the body rot and everything on the car is pretty significant.
So that's mainly due to damage, not idling like the police department has.
No, the cars really don't idle. Well, they do idle when they get to a scene, but they're not idling 24 hours a day.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Or do you want to wait? I don't know if.
I was hoping you could
of.
kind of get through the whole
Okay.
capital program, and then we'll ask our
Sure.
questions. Okay. Because I know there's a lot.
So car 22 is another Suburban. It's a 2011 Chevy Suburban that we purchased. It's got over 130,000 miles on it. It is showing rot. We've had some rot issues, brake lines, stuff like that. The car itself is rotting. It is 13 years old. It is due for replacement. Next one is fire hose. So fire hose, some years we need to buy it, other years we don't need to buy it. So we did get some money in our capital last year for fire hose, and we're looking for the rest of it this year. But our fire hose has to be tested once a year. We have an outside company that comes in and tests it. It costs roughly $11,000, a little bit more, give or take. And whatever hose basically fails, we have to replace. So we're in the process right now of spending roughly a little over $20,000 right now to replace the hose that's failed over the last 2 years. So a length of LDH, we call it's feeder line. It's basically you're dropping a water main on top of the road when you hook into a hydrant to feed the truck, or it's going from truck to truck. So the first truck up the driveway is usually engine 3 or engine 2. It lays that LDH, that feeder line up the driveway to the house to supply the water with the truck, and then the other trucks supply the truck that's pumping in the road up to the house, and it pumps water onto the house. So a hose, one length of LDH hose, 5-inch hose, 100 foot is roughly a little over $1,000 length. So when we talk about $20,000 or $25,000, it's really not a lot of money. It goes really quick. Radio communications upgrade, is that the next one?
Right.
Radio communications upgrade, so we did that over the last year. So this is a portable radio that we replaced along with truck radios. So every single firefighter has this radio. We can pass it around just so you guys can see it, because I believe the PD is going through the same thing right now.
Yep.
So these radios have roughly a 10-year shelf life. We got, I think, 12 out of our last ones. After that, they're basically, they're not reliable, the batteries, they're not supported, they become obsolete by Motorola, and it just gets too costly to fix it. So to fix a radio, it's like half the cost of a new radio, and they don't warranty or guarantee it. So during this process, we replaced all the firefighter portable radios and the truck radios. So a few years ago, I know a question came up, what's the difference between what we did for a $2 million radio upgrade to where we are now on our $500,000 radio upgrade. The $2 million was basically the brain of the system. So if we went to all these radio sites, there's 6 of them in town, that money back then basically built out all these sites to all the new equipment. And we kept the portable radios, we kept the truck radios, us and the PD at that time, because our radios weren't up for replacement. And we could get another I think it was 4 or 5 years out of them, so that's what we ended up doing. At that time, we brought Public Works onto that actual radio system, and Public Works ended up getting new radios because they didn't have any radios. So probably in another 5 or 6 years, they'll probably be due for an upgrade where we have probably 10 years on our radio upgrade. What's the last one, the aerial?
The
Air packs?
air packs.
Oh, air packs. So this is an air pack, just so everybody knows. So when we go to a fire, all firefighters put this on if they're going into the building. This is a 45-minute bottle, so it doesn't mean it's going to last 45 minutes in a fire, but they should get a good 25 to 30 minutes out of them, depending on how hard they're working in a fire. So this is basically is providing them breathing air. So when they're in the fire, they're not taking in all the carcinogens, the smoke, all the soot and everything. So this helps them breathe along with a mask. So when we bought these back in probably 2008, 2009, they were about $6,000 a pack. These packs now are roughly $10,000 a pack. So it just shows how quick they go up. And when you buy a pack, you buy a pack, then you have to buy a bottle, and then you have to buy a spare bottle with it for an NPA. So this is a carbon fiber bottle, so it's a little bit lighter than a steel bottle. They don't really make steel bottles anymore. Everything's carbon fiber to make it lighter and more ergonomic on your back. So I just wanted you guys to see, when we talk about an air pack, what it actually is, what it does. Everybody is fit tested every single year. During it, we'll get to test it in our operating budget. Every firefighter has to be tested every year, and they have to go through a fit test where they have to put their air mask on and make sure they have a nice tight seal all the way around. And there's a machine that tests it and says they either need a small, medium, or a large mask. So each firefighter has to be assigned that mask to that air pack.
So are these purchased off the state contract or no?
Right.
Yes. This is off state contract?
Yes. Yeah.
You're gonna pass that around, right?
If you want to.
The radio
I assume you can't refill the bottles?
We do. We have the capability to refill it, absolutely. So basically, at a fire, we carry multiple bottles. So we usually carry at least 2 times what we have for air packs. So we'll carry 80 bottles at the minimum. During a big fire, we'll probably go through pretty close to 80 bottles, and if we need, we'll bring an air truck there and start filling the air bottles on the scene, or we throw them in the back of the pickup and we send them back to the fires to start filling them there. We have a cascade system that fills the bottle back up.
Okay, anything else on capital?
Capital is the aerial apparatus, which what we want to do is I put this in as a placeholder, and talking with the commission, we want to come back to you in the next couple months and do a presentation about the aerial device, so we can spend more time and discuss it.
Okay.
That's okay.
Questions for Sean?
But I just want to make it known, like engine in the capital, engine 9 that we just bought, or we bought back in 2021, is just coming in now. If we were to buy an aerial today, we probably won't see that truck for a minimum 3 years. And probably won't have to pay for it for 4, depending on how we do it.
I seem to recall that it takes like 4 years.
It takes a long time. And now engines are anywhere between 24 and 30 months out if we were to order another engine today. So everything has got a huge backlog.
The library has a telescope if you need it. All right, questions for Sean?
And a knife sharpener up
Yeah,
there too.
There you go. That's the one I know.
Is there any way the fire department and the police department can work together to upgrade their radios and save
We do.
costs? Okay.
We do.
Okay.
So the mobile radios, all these radios are brought off the state contract. So it's already been, the number's already been negotiated.
Right.
And the actual radio system itself, we all work together to have it.
Anything else on capital? If not, we'll just move to operating.
All right, so if we could start just down at 52170 medical expense. So what happens there is every single year, every firefighter and driver has to go for annual physical that the town pays for, required by NFPA and OSHA. So we got word that there's going to be a 5% increase coming up as of July 1, 2024. And also the reason for the extra percent to get us to 6%, EpiPens and our other medical supplies are going up. So that's the line that comes out of. Yeah, they have to have a current physical within the year. So if I take a physical today, I need to have a physical, and we need to have it in hand by this day next year. So usually we can't do it right at 365. Usually the guys they schedule a month before, and they usually go within a month of their time. So, and we don't have a choice on that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Does everyone go to the same spot? Is this a contracted service?
Yeah, so it's Yale Occupational Health.
Do you ever go out to bid to other places?
We don't, the majority, and we are actually we were looking at Hartford Healthcare. We're having a little trouble with Hartford Healthcare right now. But most fire departments in the area all use Yale Occ Health. Data processing, we were told by our IT support, which they basically just took over, but they wanted us to know that there's possibly going to be an 8% increase come sometime next year. That does all our core IT services for the fire department. Another big one is repair maintenance machine. So this line basically takes care of a lot of the maintenance. So all the maintenance that goes on the trucks. So right now it's at 85,000. We're anticipated at 97. Last year, it's hard to really, this number is really hard to come up with. Last year we were, what were we, 140, 130. Next year I think we're going to be a little higher than we are this year. We usually run into a problem if we know it by now, knock on wood. But next year we have to take the wheels off the trucks when we do the inspections, and usually sometimes we have brake issues that we have to deal with, and when we have to take the tires off, it costs us more money to take the tires off, inspect the brakes, and if whatever needs to be fixed at that point, we need to fix. So we usually have a heavy year when we have to take the wheels off the truck for inspections. That also carbs like meter repair. So this is a meter, this is a CO meter. So if you called and you had a carbon monoxide issue at your house or building, we would come and we probably have just not one, we'll have 3 or 4 to walk through your home to make sure they all constantly get calibrated. Every 30 days they're constantly calibrated unless we take a big spike. Like if we go into your house and we get 300 or 400 parts per million, we'll come back and calibrate the meter right away just so it's back at 0 again. But usually when we go in, we have 3 or 4 of these to walk through your house to see what it is. But if they need repair or whatever, this is the line that these come out of. So along with this, we probably spend anywhere between $8,000 and $10,000 in meter repair, meaning there's 4 sensors in this. So sometimes they have to be replaced, and the sensor is roughly $300 to $400 depending on the sensor. And then there's gas that when you drop this in, there's gas that goes in to calibrate the actual sensor and calibrate the meter. So the gas has gone up quite a bit. It was at $220 last year. It's at $275 this year per can of gas, and that probably does about 8 to 10 meters at a clip. 8 to 10 meters, and then the gas is no good, and then we have to get a new can. 4 gas meter last year was $700. Right now, it's $1,121 plus free. So if the meter goes bad or it doesn't make sense to repair 2 or 3 sensors, because by that time you're pretty close to replacing the meter, depending on how old the meter is, we replace it, but you can see the cost has gone up dramatically. Repair maintenance testing. So testing is, like we talked about before, all our hose, which we basically test almost 30,000 feet of hose a year. We have to pump test all the apparatus, the tankers, the engines, the aerial, all the ladders that we have on the trucks. All the ladders have to get tested. Fit testing, like we talked about with the air mask. Stop bottle testing, meaning the bottle itself has to get tested, and then there's another test just for the actual air packet, just for the actual back part itself, the actual air pack. And all that has gone up, especially our hose testing. They're anticipating it's going to be an 8.5% increase come next year just for hose testing. Repair maintenance building is another big one. So this one, we started out at 0, and then when we moved into the new firehouse, we were at 33,000. That's all for our maintenance contracts, the elevator, RTUs. It basically covered the entire building. Now that the building, I think, is 16 years old, we're starting to see failures and different things. So this year alone, and this was the first year we really started to see big ticket items where we had no heat in the apparatus bay, which we just got that fixed. We have now our makeup air unit is having an issue with, they have to come out and take a look at it. So basically in the apparatus bay, we have to exchange air so many times, and that unit right now is not working correctly. So we have to get them to come out. We also had to do a $10,000 replacement back in, I think we came to you guys in December. It was an air tank associated with the boiler that corroded and rotted through. We had to replace that. We have 2 big circulators that circulate the water in the floor at the firehouse, which are on its last leg, and we have to rebuild them or we have to replace them. And to replace those circulators, we're probably in the area about $4,500 a piece. And we have RTUs where we're going to have to flush out the coil and clean it all out this year. So there's a lot of building maintenance that is happening this year. I think that number is okay. It might be a little high. It's really hard to judge, but once again, it's our best guess. So we might come in and we might only be 10,000 above that, or 12,000, or 15,000. It's just, I really don't know. It's more of a guess to where we're going to be.
Can I ask a question about those building repairs? It sounds like as the building's aging, do you think you're inching up close to a time when maybe it becomes a capital expense or renovation expense, or are we still?
So we had this discussion, me and Tony had this discussion, and like if we were to replace an RTU, it would be more of a capital expense because we're replacing it. Right. When we're fixing it and we're fixing these items, it really doesn't fall under a capital expense, it more falls under an operating expense.
Right.
But
so
yes.
As you repair them, there's still, the life is still aging. And are you able to estimate when you are going to have to completely replace so that we can get it in our capital plan, or we're still far enough away?
I think like for the RTUs, I'm hoping we're still at least 6 to 10 years away before we have to replace the RTUs. But once again, knock on wood, I can't guarantee that.
You mentioned a couple of items we already replaced. I'm just wondering if we not replaced, we repaired or we fixed. So this is almost 100%. I'm just wondering, what is it? Why double? Why 84% increase in that?
Well, no, we didn't. We haven't repaired everything, so we have multiple things breaking right now. Like the makeup air unit is not fixed yet. We have what are called 9/11 air vacs up in the ceiling. So if you ever go into a firehouse and you see the hose coming out of the ceiling plugged into the exhaust of the truck, so basically when you start the truck up and you pull out, the exhaust fumes are going up that pipe through a filtration system and out the building. What we have is you can start the truck up in the building and there's big filters, there's 8 of them up into the ceiling that take the diesel exhaust smoke, they filter through a pre-filter, then they go through like a charcoal filter and up through that, and it cleans the air. So to replace those to replace the charcoal filters, which we should do every 3 to 4 years, which we're due for it, that's roughly $3,500 to $4,000 just to do that. So we have a lot of big expenses coming up in next year's budget, along with everything else.
Okay. Any other questions for Sean?
Just the disproportionate number, the numbers as relates to the actual salaries are disproportionate to most of the other we're seeing, and I'm sorry, I probably just don't know about that. I'm sure there's a reason, but I'm just wondering what.
Yeah, so I wish that, can we just finish the budget and come back to that?
Sure, okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. Just so we keep going, 54240 communications radio, you'll see that being a big line, $180,000 or $185,000. What that is that's basically the radio system and the basically we pay for labor and parts, and that covers the main brain of the radio system we were talking about. So we have a contract with Motorola. Let's see if I have it here. And we pay Motorola roughly $100 and I think it's close to $115,000 a year right now. Yeah, I think it's $115,000 a year, and then we have to pay a lease at EMAC Tower, which is one of our radio sites. It's in Seymour, and that's roughly $1,500 a month. That they renegotiated the lease last year, and it went up, I think, a little over $100 a month. And then we have the generators at these sites, which we have to maintain. We got fuel for the generators, we have the electricity, and we have the fiber lines that go to these sites, which we pay roughly a little over $1,700 a month in fiber connections, so the radio works.
And that's all in 54240, is that?
That's all in 54240. Yep. But that system's not just fire, that's fire, police, and public works.
Right. Right.
Professional development training. So over the last few years, classes have changed. We're doing a lot more electric vehicle fire training because more and more EVTs are out on the road right now, and we have to figure out how to put them out, because right now if we go to an EVT fire, vehicle fire, which is an electric car, we could be there for 8 hours dumping all of what we want on it, and it may or may not go out. So they have different ideas out there. They have fire blankets that you can put on it. You got to keep it wet, keep it cool. They have another device that slides underneath the car. But you got to get underneath the car with the fire going and find out what cores, and then you hit a button and basically it comes up and it basically punctures the core and it tries to cool that core down. But there's a degree, I want to say it's once it passes like 185 degrees, it's like the point of no return. So it's a whole new way of looking at firefighting. We could dump all the foam we want on it, it's still not going to go out, it's still going to do. The other option that people were talking about is you get a dumpster to the site, you get the car picked up, put in a dumpster, fill the dumpster with water,
You would have thought
and
they
let it just sit there.
figured that out before they put these cars on the market.
Yes.
That's just me, you know. Okay.
So, and the other big thing is our EMP has changed, so instead of doing it every 3 years, they're requiring it now every 2 years for a refresher. And along with that, there's CMUs and everything we have to constantly keep taking throughout that 2-year program.
Okay.
The other one I'd like to talk about is programs for publicity. These are, this went up. We had some stock left over because of COVID, and we weren't going to the schools during COVID at that time. And these are the little red fire hats, the coloring books, the crayons. That's solely what that line is. So the fire marshal does a great job along with a couple of the guys at the department to go out and do that. So to keep on doing that next year, that's what we would need to purchase.
Yeah. Okay, what else?
Another thing that went up was technical. That's our everyday supplies, hazmat, dry zorb, meaning speedy dry, motor vehicle accident, you're gonna put it down, trip bands, stuff like that. It's everyday supplies for the fire department.
The EV car blankets are in there?
What's that?
The blankets for the EV
No,
cars?
so a blanket for an EV blanket is roughly, I want to say it's like $4,000 or $5,000. But that other device is like $20,000, but there's no guarantee it's going to put out. So.
Does anybody have them?
No, well they do, but they don't really work that well.
For $4,000 or $5,000, they don't.
For something that doesn't work.
Yeah. Gear replacement, this is important because this is going up 50% from 30 to 45. This is actually a good thing, guys, because our junior program has increased to 13 juniors. So meaning they can join the junior program at 14, and when they turn 18, they start turning over into the fire department. So it keeps our volunteerism up. So we have some guys getting off of, we have some juniors getting off of the junior program and joining the fire department right now. We have 2 of them in firefighter 1 as it stands right now. But a set of gear, to outfit them with gear, is roughly $5,000 a person. Between just the pants alone and the jacket alone is $3,850, and then you got to buy boots, which are $350 or $375, a hood, gloves, helmet. So it adds up pretty quick.
Okay. What else do you want to highlight?
Another one, just so we know, is tires. So every 7 years we have to change the tires, even though they look, some of them look brand new, some of them look great, and you wouldn't change them on your car. What DOT says is after 7 years of having to wait on it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, the actual tire itself
You guys don't
shouldn't
have a choice
support the
about
weight.
that, as I recall, right?
What's that?
You don't have a choice about that.
We don't have a choice. So usually when we take the tires out, we see Public Works wants them, and
Right.
most of the time they take them and they can put them on.
Try the
dump
library.
trucks.
Okay.
And the last one is RWA. RWA, we don't really have a choice on this. This is, we own our hydrants in town, just like everybody owns their hydrants in the surrounding towns. Basically what this number is we have to pay to have access to the water. Doesn't matter how much water we use out of fire, it's not metered, but we have to pay to have access to the water.
Okay. Any questions for Sean?
The wage increase.
Yeah. So Karen was going to be here tonight. She was moving her daughter into school, so this was more her thing to explain. I'm going to do the best I can with it. So, if I can just find it here. If I pass this around, it might be easier for you guys to understand it. There's not enough if we could just share a little bit.
Go ahead, Sean.
Okay, so it was discussed in length at the fire commission meeting, and it was deemed that people felt that the 2.5% increase per year wasn't enough based on the average for cost of living since 2021. So this basically, she did some research on it, and this is what she came up with. So they believe that, and so do we, that we believe we're looking for an additional 5% on top of what was negotiated. We had nothing to do with the negotiations, but we believe that this should be an increase this year. So just to put it in perspective, it's really not even a lot of money that it was going up to 5%, the additional 5%. If you look at on the first sheet, on the bottom of the first sheet, that's what it would be. So I wish Karen was here to speak about this, and I'm sure she could come back and speak about it when she's back. But we believe between cost of living and everything else, that even though we're asking for the 10%, that we're still behind the curve at least by 5% of cost of living.
Okay, well, we have the information, so that's very helpful.
Good.
All right. Any other questions for Sean?
Does the fire department fundraise?
We do.
And if so, do you have an estimate about how much a year? Or
don't,
I'm sure it varies, but.
I don't have the information tonight.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Quick question.
I'm just mindful that we have
Yeah, quick
Good
question
deal
about
more
this.
better.
Yep.
Maybe it's more information you could give us how it relates to area towns. And I think I understand that some of the request here has to do with keeping these competitive salaries so you don't lose people to other departments. I wondered if you had done any of that research.
Yeah, so I'm more concerned on the fire marshal and the admin part, because I mean all of our costs have gone up since 2020, and everything has gone really high for cost of living. I'm sure everybody in the private sector, even in another sector, their percentages have gone up more than 2.5%, especially for last year, and another 2.5% this year, just because of cost of living. I mean, they were issuing 8 to 10% increases, and I can tell you, mine has gone up. Multiple people that I've talked to have gone up, so I don't believe that a 2.5% increase and a 2.5% increase for next year is really. We're not even at the curve. I know a curve has happened, but we're so far behind the curve to even go up to 10% with these, especially these two individuals. I don't think it's a lot of money for what they have to do, and they worked right through COVID. We required everybody to be in. It's not like they were remote or anything else. So I believe this is justifiable right now.
Thank you. Good, thank you, Sean. Okay, I think we're all set. Don't forget your airport or whatever that is.
Oh, on the last one, on the capital non-recurring, our emitters for 7,500. These are the pagers that we're talking about. These, every firefighter has issued one. They wear them on their belt. They have a belt clip, so if a call comes in, it goes off, they notify them, and then they respond to the firehouse. This is a thermal imaging camera, which looks brand new because we had to replace the cover because it cracked. But this is, we have 3 of these cameras right now, and we use them constantly. Motor vehicle accidents, looking for people in the woods, at fires. You can look through the wall and see if there's a fire in the wall, see if you can read the temperature on the wall. So just to put it in perspective, these are just some of the things that we do use.
You guys are definitely, you got a lot of stuff.
A lot of toys, a lot of expensive toys.
Well, I get it. I didn't know we had a lot of people lost in the woods, but it's good to know that we can find them. Can't put out a fire on an electric vehicle, but we can find people in the
right.
woods. Okay, good. Thank you, Sean. Okay, Public Works, thank you for waiting.
Thank you.
Just gotta give Sean time to get his gear
I know.
My goodness.
Suit it up.
My goodness.
I was
Did you
gonna
get
bring a
your
truck.
radio that was drifting around?
I got it.
Yeah.
I got it.
Need a value room. We don't want to have to buy any more of those.
Right. Thank you, Sean. Thank you for everything.
everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I guess we're starting with Public Works vehicles.
Yes.
Just to reiterate something like what Sean said, the delivery for vehicles, there's a time lag from the time you place an order, and it usually can take anywhere up to 2 years for Public Works vehicles. When we submit the budget, like in our timing here, by the time we get authorization, when July comes around, we go out, we try to bid. Sometimes it could take us 3 to 6 months to get responses back. An order will be placed, and then once the order is placed, you've got to rely on the manufacturer to make delivery. So it can take anywhere from 1.5 years to 2 years before we get a vehicle. My request this year happens to be for a frontline plow truck. And then going out in the 6-year plan, you can see how the numbers fluctuate. Basically, it's a smaller truck and a larger truck. We try to alternate so that we're not impacting the heavy hit in any one budget year. But trucks that we try to replace, they're usually around 20, 22 years old before we have to replace them. Once we get that age, the cost of repairs is significant if parts are still available. We've had trucks that, like in the one that's going to be replaced with this proposed budget, we did some revamping on the body. It's been in the last 2 snowstorms because of hydraulic problems and exhaust problems, so the repair costs can add up really fast. And of course, metal fatigue, body rot, things of that nature, it all impacts why we replace vehicles. I believe the next thing on your agenda is the Public Works equipment.
Right.
And the same scenario with the equipment, scheduled replacement. We have several pieces of equipment. Backhoes, we have 2 of them. One of them right now is inoperable because of brake issues. And several years ago, we revamped the brakes on that particular vehicle, and it cost us $14,000. The mechanic, he's investigating, but we don't have a prognosis on it. But they're used heavily every day. The payloader goes out, snowstorms, trees down, for various things, and so we try to build a reserve with the anticipation in coming years to make the purchase. And we're not trying to spike the budget in any one year. Right now they're operational, but there is a certain cost of maintenance associated with it. So we try, because they're heavily used, we try to schedule, anticipate the replacement. And in the budget, it's just a reserve that we're building in this current year and trying to build up that reserve. But I went to Tony today. We had something that's not represented in this: unanticipated breakdowns. The welder in the shop failed. It's operable, but can only run it a short time on something light, and then it shuts down automatically. And it can't be rebuilt, but you have to shut it down for 24 hours before you can go back and start using it. So we're going to replace that, but that was like a $9,000 item that's not structured in my capital replacement, and it's an unanticipated, but we take the money out of this reserve because it's a necessity. When something happens, whether a plow breaks, something on the truck breaks, you have to weld it and get it back out on the road. So the budget here, it goes back and forth with the equipment, but it is basically a reserve. It includes the backhoe and the payloader. Those are the primary purchases, the big expenditures. The next thing on your agenda is roads. My request is pretty consistent across every year in the plan. I cited some examples in my submission of road conditions so that you get a better understanding of what the failures can look like and what our approach to road improvements are. In some cases, they're just taking the surface off the road. and you put an overlay on it. In other cases, you have to take both layers of the asphalt, grind it up, mix it into the base, and you put 2 layers of asphalt down, so there are higher costs. We evaluate roads every year, try to make the selection of roads fit our allocation. One of the problems we have is we don't get costs for the reclamation work or the milling work, and we don't get asphalt costs at the time of budget presentation. So we have to wait usually until the springtime before those costs become available. And that could have significant, we did pretty good this year. My estimating has been pretty consistent with the people that lay the asphalt down. It's a contracted service. Usually we go off of the state bid, typically, for those services. And we don't know where those numbers are going to fall. So we have to evaluate and then make adjustments closer to the middle of the year.
Warren, but what percentage of roads do we do on an annual basis, would you say?
Anywhere from, it's been typically, we've had better years, we got 3.5 miles, but typically 2 to 2.5. And again, that mileage, we have approximately 80 miles of road in town. And if you look at the degradation curve, there's always a road there for us to treat. It doesn't go away, it's a revolving door. And it's sometimes the perspective from the public is worst road first. That is not how you manage your money, because you can spend a lot of money very rapidly and get no value in the roads that are degrading gradually, when you can preserve them before you have to spend that extra money for the 2 layers of asphalt. You try to keep them in good condition. But with 80 miles and you're only doing 2-3 miles of road a year, simple math. You know, we're not, I've mentioned it in the past, and Tony can attest to it, that we've avoided bonding, because when you bond for the money, that road that you're bonding for, it's already degrading before you pay the note off. So, you know, sometimes you have to just be on a wait list, and we do the best. And yeah, we've got problems around the road. We try to keep up with the potholes and things like that, but I see this town by comparison to a lot of our neighboring communities, and there's significant problems. And we haven't gone to the bonding scenario. And so I think we've been trying to stay ahead of the curve a little bit. Perhaps we could do a little better to strengthen our asset. The infrastructure is very costly. And when we're doing pavement, we're not looking at the overall picture. We're not doing like some towns where they spend maybe $1 million, $2 million, and they do base reconstruction. They add extra drainage to the roads. All we're doing is doing pavement preservation. So this is a, from my perspective, it's a maintenance request. We're not doing enough to the total picture. Could we do more? And I know that the town has obstacles and you have to look at the global side of things, but I think we're managing well for what we do. The next section is Bridge Waterway Reserve, and that's pretty consistent. It's kind of self-explanatory. If we have culverts, hardening of discharges on waterways, things, and this could be all over the place again, because if you had, let's say, a bridge fall into play, now you get out of this request and this allocation request, because it's significant cost, and that becomes something that you have to plan for. There's funding to help us with grants and things of that nature, engineering and things associated. This is not involving that. This is just maintenance.
Well, may I ask, is there a plan or vision to improve our, increase our culverts and drainage in the context of the increased precipitation and intensity thereof?
Not with this budget allocation. You know, we have to go in certain things, like we clean our catch basins on an annual basis. That's kind of a preservation approach, and we try to keep the pipes unobstructed. Yes, you could get a significant storm. You could have a culvert wash out and take the road out in certain things. We're not subject to that here. But this request is just general maintenance. You know, heavy storms and erosion, you try to harden the discharge locations to slow the water down and maybe pick up any silts that are discharging with it. But in part of this, we might have engineering costs associated with some of the work that we do. So maybe some of that comes out of that allocation as well.
Thank you.
Anything else on capital? Questions for Warren?
I just wonder, in your professional opinion, what do you attribute the decline of our roads to? Is it drainage? Is it freezing?
You're asking kind of a loaded question.
Sure. And we don't have to go there.
Yes, storms do impact. We get erosion in the gutter lines, or you get surface degradation. The biggest thing with any roadway anywhere is the environment, the weather. You get freeze-thaw cycles. The pavement raises up and then it goes back down, and you get cracked pavement. Asphalt is almost like a breathable product. Envision, if you will, peanut brittle. You can flex it one way, you go to move it, and it's going to snap. There's oil comes out of the asphalt product with time. The sun, the UV coming down on the roadways, and again, traffic loading. There's a lot of things. Obviously, water, drainage under the road. All these things impact, the life of a road. Typical asphalt, you can get 7 to 10 years life cycle out of it. We're on a 40 to 50 year paving cycle. So, and again, when I try to keep residents informed, but this is reality. And years ago there was alternatives that were not structurally sound, but it did seal the cracks, the slightest imperfections in the road to keep the water from penetrating the surface. And that was meant to not so much improve it, yes, aesthetically, but it had no surface integrity. You could drive a car, you pull out of your driveway to check the mail, and you move the steering wheel, and you're going to dislodge the pavement because it was just maybe 1/4 of an inch thick. The hot sun, everything would be affected, but it became an environmental unfriendly thing. The evaporation of the VOCs impacting the environment. So we got away from that for the reason of the environmental side, because we had restrictions on when we could do those applications, and it didn't have any structural integrity. And if you looked at a road over a 10-year period, if you were treating that road, because it used to be every 3 years the roads were treated in town, if you do it, that same application 3 times, what is your expense? So, but you put pavement down, and you're going to have almost the same expense, but you're going to have a better road out of it.
So why don't we, if there are no other questions on capital, let's move to operations.
Sure.
Susan, I did have one quick question. I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. The $850,000 is for town roads only.
Right.
So we're not talking about Maine state.
The state has their own, and I just got notification, and Mika got notification just this week that the state is intending to do some work on Amity Road, North Pease Road up to the Bethany line.
Okay, so we get, looks like grant funding for specifically town roads.
We get a percentage that's there, but it's by the total scope of things. Correct me, Tony, if I'm wrong. It's about $65,000 a year.
Per year. It's called the Local Capital Improvement Program. It's got several uses. We have historically used it for roads. That's not all you can use it for.
And has that been the steady 65,000? I can't see backwards. I can only see forward.
Yeah, it's been that for a long time. We also have a formulary grant in the operating budget. It's called Town Road Aid. It's about $50,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any more questions on capital?
Yep. No, go ahead and move to operations.
Okay. Public Works operating. There's very little changes across the board on my budget from year to year. Obviously, salaries are impacted, but that's contractual. Moving through the line 53610, it's all the contracted services, and primarily that's catch basin cleaning, trees, line painting. The services here, like the bids for catch basin and cleaning this past year, they were surprising. They were like $35 a basin to up to $235 a basin. So obviously, we're going to go with the guy that's low. But those services, I don't know how much longer those prices on the lower end threshold will stay. Trees, that's a variable, but line painting is, we're using epoxy paint on the center line markings, and to do the mileage of road in town, it's roughly $85,000 to paint center line miles. There's other painting that we're obligated to do, which are crosswalks, symbols on the road, you know, the arrows, the stop bars and things like that. We have taken it upon ourselves to now do like the parking stalls in the town parking lots. We do that ourselves, and we do stop bars. It's cost savings. You still have to buy the paint, which is going up dramatically, but in-house we're not using the contractors, so we're trying to save money in that regard. But we can't do the long line or the amount of symbols in town. So that's contracted out. And we alternate that, so I might get 5 years out of the long line, but then the symbols, we could get possibly 5 years out of those. But over time, you know, it's still expensive for paint. And the only time that we really try to deviate from doing anything is if we do pave a road, we have to remark it. And so we'll pay a little bit of a premium because we're not doing volume, we're doing short. So just to get them to come to town, so we try to consolidate our work and do savings where we can. Other than that, moving on, we have line 55-130, maintenance. That line was pretty much underfunded in past years. We find that there's nothing really associated to a vehicle, but we have a lot of miscellaneous expenses. It could be nuts and bolts for plow blades, but we don't assign those specifically to a truck. We're not getting that accounting, you know, that minute for the smaller items. But we do have a lot of expenditures in that. So I requested an increase in that line because typically we underfund that line from year to year.
Okay.
And that's all I have on...
Warren, can you speak to the buyback? I know the explanation indicates that you use a formula. Is that just a different formula than you've used in the past?
It's the same formula, but I have to estimate worst-case scenarios, and usually buyback doesn't meet the amount that's requested because time is used, and if the time is used by an employee, they're not eligible to buy back. But I have to account for the maximum just because it's a worst-case scenario.
Okay. Anything else?
But the formula to derive it, the number is still the same.
Okay.
Warren, we've talked about this in the past, about having a budget line item for tree work. Yours is in contractual.
Yes.
Do you happen to know what percentage of that contractual, I know it varies, but goes to tree work?
Usually I'm over budget. Usually my request, as like in this year, if I had it broken down, I'd request $100,000 for tree work. I'm spending, usually the allocation has been around 50 for me, but I exceed that, and then I have to do line transfers because it's a public safety thing. So every year it's a variable. I do have a standing list that, let's say, there's trees out there, but by priority they're not as severe, so I have to pick and choose what might get done.
Sure. For whatever it's worth, for the Board of Finance, for your consideration, there is an unprecedented amount of funding coming through the federal government, through the state, to municipalities for investments in urban and community forests and tree plantings and care and maintenance and planning. Most of them do require having a line item in the budget for trees as just a prerequisite. But it might be something for Woodbridge to consider applying for grants and to develop a formal inventory of the resource and make, you know, strategic planning decisions and get grants to help
Well, I
offset
know
the
there's
cost.
grants out there. There's been grants grants available at different times and different venues. And from the forestry aspect, it might be more conducive, but on street trees, because we don't have tree personnel, so we don't necessarily go out, everything is a contracted service. So we don't plant, and we don't go out pruning unless it's something that's a hazard. So some of the parameters with the grant, you have to have an itinerary. If you know you're gonna, like let's say in a park, you're gonna plant trees or do something, I think that's more where the grants might come into play. From general maintenance, I don't know how much, I've talked about it, with the Tree Wardens Association, with other municipalities and things of that nature, but to get into actually the nuts and bolts of having a plan, we don't have a tree inventory in this town. There's been a lot of volunteers, there's been conversations in the past. Yeah, it would be conducive, but then again, I have to look at it, and how much help would that be to my department?
Well, that's an important question to ask.
Yeah.
So we can talk, if you want, more about this.
Actually, Andrea, I'd like to hear more about that as well. So
Andrea clearly wants to branch out. Okay, waste management.
There's a way to get some money.
The thing is, we're not putting trees in, we're cleaning them up.
But that's the thing, with strategic planning, the money we can save money in the long run.
Yeah.
And you want to set yourself up to be able to get it if there's a reason.
Does that grant include removal of trees or just planting?
It could, not exclusively,
Got it.
not exclusively.
Okay.
But we may want to think about
Okay.
planting, so many of them.
In waste management, on the capital side, just like in public works, we try to anticipate. I know it says compactor replacement, but it's also containers. It's containers of recent date, they've been the most problematic. They've gone up significantly in cost, and within the past 6 months, I found out that our vendor that typically we ordered from is no longer in business. So, trying a vending source, we're reaching out to our haulers to find out where they're purchasing them, and a lot of them are ordering, but they're from out of state. So we get into somewhat of a conflict of trying to get it. The containers themselves have gone up significantly in cost. And built into this request, it's kind of a reserve. This year, it's kind of more just a container to be replaced. I think the cost might be significantly higher, but we have a little bit of money, I believe, still available in that reserve, so to offset any of my requests. But moving forward, the compactors themselves, one was installed in '94 and the other one was installed in '96. We've been nursing them along, but we're going to reach a point where they're not going to be repairable, mainly because of parts. We do have some welding. We've got people that come in and try to, refabricate the hopper that's called, where the trash is actually dropped in of the transfer station. But the compactor containers themselves are going to be a little bit unique. So much the container would be, but the door that mounts to the compactor would have to be modified to our platform the way it's built. You just can't generically order a can. Where the other containers up there is just the size of them and the gauge steel, so it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
And that's all I have on the capital management.
All right, and what about operations?
Operation, that's going to take a little bit of a hit because our tip fees have gone up in some areas. Just trying to get my paperwork here.
That's line 53204 you're looking at?
01.
201.
I'm sorry, 201?
Yeah. Obviously, salaries, there's been a change there. And the buybacks hit change because there was an underestimate on the previous budget. We only accounted for one person, not two, but again, personnel don't use all the time. So, but the significant changes are probably going to be on 53201, the tip fees. have gone up. And with that, the estimated, with the tonnage and the tip fees, we're going to be paying a higher cost. Moving down to bulky waste, it's the same thing. That's the 53,204. Tip fees and the handling and the amount of hauls is really what impacts it. And recycling, that's up and down, but I'm not seeing a significant change based on our average tonnage and the amount of hauls. I didn't make any change in that line request at this time.
Good, questions?
On the bulky waste, are we weighing still? Is that?
Oh yeah, everything,
what we're
yeah,
weighing?
oh yeah.
And are our fees commensurate with what's happening in terms of what we're paying?
Yes, it's been an improvement, but it doesn't totally offset. Because bulky waste is, you can have, our average ton by container, it hasn't been significant changes, but the weight of the container is what you pay on the tonnage on the tip fee. Even though we're weighing it, there's certain items that go into that container that, let's say, a furniture item that a resident comes in, it's a non-payable item. So you have some weights going in there because it's not like remodeling waste, for example. So when you have that, yes, it's weighed, but if a resident comes in, let's say with a sofa or just like a vanity cabinet, there's no significant weight, you know, to charge the resident for those small items. But if they come in with a truck, they come in with a trailer, and they're disposing of it, come in with a pickup truck loaded for stuff, they're weighted.
Is there an opportunity to increase what we're charging for bulky waste?
Well,
or do you think we're...
there are some towns that are getting more. We'd have to look at that. But again, that's always a juggling thing because on our end, it's what we're paying on the disposal side. You know, those are the fluctuations that we're, let's say, not accounting for when we do a budget estimate. That there could be a rise between the budget preparation and then during the year. Let's say, like with the other vended services, when we look for them in the spring, like the asphalt, we might find out that early in the spring there's been an increase. But our you know, Kelly, the office manager, does a pretty good accounting of things, and we can see the trends are pretty consistent. But the hauling fees, and next year, we're good for this year, but next year we'll be going out to bid for those services, and we'll probably anticipate an increase in fees from there. But right now, there's consistency. That's why I didn't modify that in the bulk.
Anything else for Warren? I think we're all set. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Recreation. Thank you for waiting.
Yeah. Maybe a handout. It'll explain easier for the 6-year capital budget, the first one, which is the slab. Second one. First one's a treadmill. Second one would be the universal slab. Shows you what it is and what it's going to be and how it can help and impact the programs for the town of Woodbridge. My name is John Adamovich. This is John DeMeo. Just a little background. Recreation opened up in 1964. From 64 to 67, I was a camper, and I started working for Recreation in 68 till this year. So I made all 60 summer camps. I may not have worked in a year, but I've been in all 60 summer camps for the time. And I took over as director in 87. The 6-year capital budget, okay, if you look at what I have is the status of programs that we have. The shuffleball court is over at the library. It's across from the library between the old firehouse. Right? And we have one that's set up there, and we have another one if we needed to put in, if we ever get another space. The replacement of the skating rink, we have the skating rink minor. We're not going to use it because Timmy from the board from the Town Public Works took the old one, and we had to move off of the. If you look at the tennis courts, they're off. The water would be 24 inches at one end and 6 at the other. We couldn't balance it. So we moved over to the Alleghi property, and that's a 16-inch water at one end and a 14-inch water at the other. So that's pretty well balanced. We were open 5 days. We had 4.5 inches of ice. We opened up. It was beautiful. There was 30 people, I don't know how, but it got out there. People just came, and it was beautiful. But as it is with the, Mother Nature, back to nothing. We went from 4.5 inches of ice, 4.5 inches, to 1/4 of an inch now. So in the future, I'm going to be looking at something like that in the 6-year capital budget to do something different, and that could be on this slab, okay, which is great. But also we have in here in progress is the replacement of gymnastics equipment. We have one piece of equipment, a balance beam. At a certain point, they become too old to fix or anything like that, so we just replace it when they're there. All right, if you go to the treadmill, it's the same thing with the treadmill. The first one is the treadmill, and the treadmill is the one we're putting up this year because we did one 3 years ago. A treadmill lasts about 5 years. We have to have commercial treadmills. We can't use home treadmills. We have to have commercial because so many people use our treadmills. So we replace it every 5 years. This one treadmill is at 7, so it needs to be replaced. And then down the road, the next treadmill will be 2030 in that area. So we keep replacing them as we go along for safety. We don't throw out the treadmill. We take the treadmill, we place it into a closet. The one that's in the closet is so old that it just can't be used and sold, so we just get rid of it and we save the other one in case of an emergency, which we had one time where one of our parts broke on one of our treadmills, so we had a treadmill, we took it out of the closet, we placed it in the hallway, and we had a treadmill. We were not down the treadmill at all, so we were able to use it. It's a safety factor for replacing of the treadmill, and that's why we're trying to do it. The next one is the universal slab. I gave you a copy of this and shows you what a slab looks like. Now we're talking about 200 by 80, which is like 16,000 square feet slab. It could be placed over at the Fitzgerald Alleghi property. As you come in, there's where the dog park was going to be. Nothing has to be taken out, it just has to be leveled and put it right there. Or it could go in the parking lot below the playground. That's another area that could place without having to go to Coop Op or whatever it is, all the different ones, it could just be placed there. Or the real deal is the Country Club of Woodbridge. It is where the tennis courts are. There's electricity there. There's everything there. We can, down the road, we can build something really nice. A slab could go there and it could be multiple use. 4 pickleball courts, 2 basketball courts, if you look at this, floor hockey, an ice skating rink. And on this, since it's a solid base, they have synthetic ice now. And synthetic ice, you can put it up for 6 to 8 months and skate on it. And you don't have to worry about it like this and clean it or anything like that. It'll go. It might be a little expensive, but it's a one-time cost, and it would go on this slab, perfectly on this slab. It could be volleyball courts, because we have volleyball there already, but this could be volleyball up there. Badminton courts, we have a badminton program that we have at Beach Road School. It could be moved there, and also at Beach Road School. 2 mini soccer courts, and then tricycle play area. Kids go around, just like when we were over at the Fitzgerald property. The kids would go out there in the little trikes and they go around and everything. It can be used by almost anybody from any age from 2, 60, I'm past that. So that's basically what I have for the slab that I like to do. And the slab that I put down here, the price of this is with asphalt. It's a little more expensive for cement. Cement will last a longer time. Cement will last probably, 20, 30 years. And asphalt, if taken care of, you'll get 10, 15 good years out of it if it's taken care of correctly. There was nothing wrong with at the Fitzgerald property, there was nothing wrong with that skating rink. It was perfectly flat, perfectly tested, and perfectly taken care of. But then they used it for the park for the animals, the dogs, which is a good thing for little guys. The little guys can't go with the big guys. The next one is the fitness trail. The fitness trail is a 10-station fitness trail, which is on the Alleghi property, Fitzgerald property. It's on the Fitzgerald property, and it goes all the way around. In a certain section, there's stops at this, and it's always used. It's always used. But we've had twice already. We've had Boy Scouts do an Eagle project and upgrade it and take care of it. I think at this point, we may need to replace it, and replace each section for safety reasons, for this and that, because the wood bends, the ground gets thin, the wood materials that are into the ground start to rot and start to give away a little bit. So that's a program that we like to look at down the road. We still have it. We have a Boy Scout right now looking for an Eagle project. We're going to talk to him. The next one is the night lighting at the courts and the fields. We're going to cancel that program. We're going to cancel that. That needs to be looked into a little bit more because I guess it's called flooding or something when the lights go over and out of the position of the area.
Leakage.
Leakage, thank you. It's leakage, and so we have to make sure that we can't do that without making sure we know the leakage is like that, because we don't want to interfere, like at center field with the people across the street. Even though it's only 1 or 2 houses, it's still people in the town of Woodbridge. You don't want to put that on top of them. Okay. Then we go to the basketball court. I had this down on the basketball court, but this could come out. If we do the slab, the basketball courts will be on the slab. If you look at this picture, there's 2 basketball courts, 2 full-size basketball courts going that way. And you can also put a court going the opposite way, like this way. So you can have 2 courts all the way up like this, or 2 half courts like that. So that project down the road, if the slab is built, can come out of the budget, okay? And we don't have to do it if we have this program. The next one is a, well, always put this in here. Susan knows.
I'm wondering if the synthetic ice needs a Zamboni.
A synthetic Zamboni. If we get one, I'm driving it.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm bringing it up. Okay, never mind.
Okay. We joke because I actually had a Zamboni coming up to do the ice over here like this from West Haven, but we didn't have a truck to bring it up. So.
In Canada, they just use blow torches. It just melts the top layer of ice.
It makes up those ice?
Yeah.
Now you can use a telescope.
We had somebody do that once on a baseball field, decided to put a little gasoline on and then to get the ice off the field. Yeah, it wasn't too good.
Let's refocus.
Okay, so we're all set. It's a 90-foot diamond. I put it in there as we don't have a 90-foot diamond. And if you look at this, you know, Bethany has 2 90-foot diamonds. Oxford has 2 90-foot diamonds. Prospect, Orange has 2. Seymour has 1, and now they have 1 at the high school, so they have 2. Derby has 1. Estonia 2. Shelton. So everybody has a 90-foot diamond. The Woodbridge Fathers Baseball League does a great job of bringing the kids up through. But when they get to a certain point and they're ready to move on to a 90-foot diamond, they have to join another league. They have to join Orange, they have to join Bethany, they have to, Woodbridge has a team, I think, but they have to combine together and go play away. They always play away.
Or it's a tri-town league.
It's a
Bethany Orange.
Orange and Woodbridge like this.
So
and a lot of
we have
times
to go to Munson to play in a 90-foot diamond if we play up there, or we have to pay to use the Orange 90-foot diamonds down at the old tavern.
Never get to use the Amity?
They shut it down. That's how I was trying to get through it. Once
Amity has been an issue. We used to use it in the past, but then because of the resting of the fields and the maintenance of the fields and everything else, it just became a non-starter.
Because we have 3 towns, and we have 3 towns with excellent athletes like this, the Amity High School and a great coach, they always make the playoffs. And they're playing all the way through to the end of the year, and then it's hot weather like this, and they have to play, and we can't go on because they're in the playoffs, like that. And so it runs into a position where we just can't use the field. So I just put this in here so that maybe somewhere down the road we can develop this. And that's our 6-year capital budget.
Any questions on capital before we move to operations? No.
Okay. In our operational budget, I gave you another, in the packet, if you look at the second page like this, Mika asked us to put together a thing that would show the usage. Our main budget, okay, is $388,000 for part-time seasonal help. And this is why. If you look at this, fall of this year coming up, we have 248 students. Even with COVID, we still did that. And now that COVID is pretty much a little bit behind us at this, we went to the winter, for the first time ever, 322 students. That's 35% of the Beecher Road School attendance. That's a pretty big bunch. You're looking for 20%. You're always looking for 20% of the student attendance at Beecher, but we're at 35%. Our programs are packed, they're full, they're running really good, and now we're looking for spring, and the spring coming up. So what we did was, we're a little different than other departments. We're governed a lot by minimum wage. So we took a $1 hit minimum wage going into this budget. And that comes to like our budget, I'm going to ask for $63,570 overall for the budget. $46,900 of that is part-time personnel. And then there's another $2,500 for administrative raises like John and I receive a 2.5% raise. But the rest of the budget, if you look at it, we've contained it to almost zero. There is one aspect in this budget, I was talking, and there's $5,000 that you can automatically remove from this budget. Dwight was telling me that they have a signage up this, and they're going to be putting up a sign like this, so we don't have to come up with that $5,000. So that's something that I would say you could remove from our budget without hurting us. That's a $5,000 save right there.
Thank you, sir.
There's one thing that comes into that $46,000 is there's a $13,600 personal add to the budget for coverage at Beecher Road School from 3:30 to 6. Beecher Road School is not over at 3 o'clock, 3:30. Beecher Road School runs with their students to 6 o'clock with their extended day program. And they want to have a security that somebody's there. So we have to provide somebody. I was asked by the superintendent, she was very polite about it, but she was very concerned about coverage at that door. We have double doors, okay? So to protect them, we have to have somebody at the first door to let people in. Then we have a recreational student at the next door that can let them into the gym. But the first door has to be somebody that is there, an adult like this, and they watch them, let them in, and let the people into the building. So that's a cost that we didn't have before. But when Beecher opens up in the school year, we're going to have somebody to cover that position like that, because we're there. And then at night at 6 o'clock, we still run till like 8, 9:30 at night with the pool, if the pool opens, and with our programs, but we can cover that because there's nobody in the school.
What line item is that included in?
50320.
Thank you.
Part-time seasonal.
Quick question about that. Is somebody going to sit in the Sally?
Yes. Yes, and the doors have to be locked. Both doors have to be locked now.
Right, but you can't sit in there then.
What's that?
That's like a safety concern.
Sit where?
In the Sally port, so this is in between the two
But
doors.
there is a place there, correct?
Right, we have a desk there. We have a desk there.
Right.
Okay, I don't know.
This is down the front door.
We'll talk in executive session about safety issues.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about 3 doors. You got the first door to get in, you got the second door to get in, and you got a third door to get through. And a fourth one to the pool. You can't get to the pool because that's also locked. But I don't know where we could put somebody if we couldn't put them in that area. But the doors are locked. The doors, we usually have the front door open, let people in, and then we unlock the second one. The superintendent said, no, that can't be done. For safety reasons, the doors have to be locked.
Yes.
And you can't, and then you have to have somebody come and check them into the building.
Okay.
Okay?
Any other questions? You all set?
I'm all set.
Thank you, sir. I think we appreciate
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
waiting until we got to you. And now we're going to move to Tony, I believe, is doing the center,
Yep.
former firehouse, medical services, and animal care.
Correct. Real quick. The center building is utilities for the facility. There's not much more to it than that. No change in the budget. Primarily because those rates are locked in. Former fire station, again, these are the utilities for the facility. I did not budget this year for use of the facility, so that would impact if for some reason it became a cultural center. At this point, I did not budget for that, and so we would have to address that at that time.
Right.
Can you speak a little bit more about that cultural center? What's going on there? I've heard, I'm just confused about the plan for this old firehouse. Maybe this is not.
It's probably, yeah, it would probably be best to maybe do that at a meeting.
Okay.
Sure.
We have to give an update.
We get the building committee in there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Next is medical services. So there's the big item in this is our contract with AMR, which is the paramedic service that we get in town. That's the general professional services line. That's primarily the major expenditure here. The regional services is our we participate in CMed, which is a regional medical group. And I can do more about that than I do, but they coordinate ambulances and mass casualty incidences and a few other things.
Let me ask you a question. How many more years on that contract do we have?
AMR?
The AMR one.
I'm going to say maybe one more.
Yeah, it's
But
coming
it's
pretty
coming,
close. I
yeah.
remember when I was on board.
Yeah, it's, I'm gonna
It's
say
coming
maybe
pretty
one more
close.
year, yeah. And then it's, you know, I think, Dwight, I think it's the end of,
Pretty close. It's within a year or two,
Yeah.
I think.
end of next year.
Okay, that's the reason I'm asking.
Yeah, yeah.
How long does that contract usually, how long are you contracted?
Been around for a
About
while.
5 years, I think.
Yeah.
5
It
years?
was a 5-year agreement that they
It was
reached.
flat for a few years.
It was, the first
And
3
so
years were
that-
flat.
This is going up, maybe we're near the end.
Right, because the last 2
I remember it
years,
was
right,
going to go up
That's
and
right.
end or close
Yeah.
to it.
right, right.
Yeah.
It's one of the services that I think people don't realize in town that we have as far as response times for those types of emergencies, because they are so responsive in the quality of service that we get. I believe it's, and someone else might be able to help you, the difference between like a paramedic and an EMT, you know, is 150 hours of training versus 1,800 hours of training. We've got the 1,800 hours of training with people there. So it's, you know, it goes along with it, but it's something that if it's in a year, we're gonna have to take a look at it.
Well, the contract's up December 31st, 2025.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's what I was gonna say, it's
Yeah.
pretty close. Well, the only thing I really have on AMR is when we have our medic and they're called out of town. I don't know, I've asked the question and I can't really get a straight answer is, AMR is supposed to backfill that position, you know, and they're supposed to call in.
I spoke with the commission on that, specifically, I had the same question. And they do, and they are supposed to, and they do replace. So if they're getting called out to Bethany, we're getting
Right,
replaced
yeah,
there in case
you
something.
hear them get called out all the time.
Right,
All right, let's let Tony finish and then we'll.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. And then, what's that? What's that?
Animal control.
Animal control. The animal control, this is still a work in progress, this budget. We're hopeful to get this a little lower, but the animal controls are 3 town, we have 3 towns involved in animal control. We have 2 ACOs, animal control officers. Basically, the way it works is the town of Woodbridge runs the operation and we bill the other 2 towns for their proportionate service. So it's Woodbridge, Bethany, and Seymour. And we have the facility located here in Woodbridge. And so 125 is our portion of that operation. But like I said, we're making some progress on this, and so I'm hoping to have more information for you your next meeting, when the selectmen meet, when finance meeting.
Okay. All right, good. I think that's all for tonight. Did I miss anything? No. We're meeting on Thursday, and we will have the audit on Thursday, correct?
So far, yes, I'm hoping he can come on Thursday.
All right, well, okay.
And Thursday's mostly, except for the first item, it's mostly stuff that I'll do.
Mostly you, right? Okay, okay. All right, good.
Has the grand list been updated?
Yeah, it's due tomorrow, no, first.
Okay.
Yeah, so hopefully for your next meeting, we'll, because we haven't filed an extension, so I'm sure by your next meeting, I'll have an update on that.
All right.
Thank you.
We are adjourned, folks. Thank you.